Yes. Fine. Yes. I'm not there. Namaskara.
Sir, namaskara, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
First of all, I would like to thank our coordinator, sir, HRDC, for inviting me to address you learned people. Most of you all have been completed your PhD research work, and some of you may be pursuing your PhD research work. And I hope most of you have already published many research articles in journals and other in other occasions, and you also made presentations in different conferences, so that you are into the research work. You are all into the research work, and as I have already understood from the coordinator that you are from different disciplines, starting from Kannada, English, history, political science, and economics, sociology, like that, like even library science. Very heterogeneous group, but the common thing is most of these papers, disciplines will be having the similar kind of methodologies. So as sir has told me, it is the social science group. Strictly speaking, Kannada and English languages, they are not purely comes under the social sciences, because they have a different kind of methodologies. Please excuse me, I may not be able to address your research questions. If I try my level best, if you have any doubts. Friends, as I already mentioned, research, you are all into the research, and you have obligations also. As the UGC has prescribed, you have two acts. One is your regular teaching, and another one is you have to publish your research articles. So that too, as the UGC has given the guidelines, you need to publish your research articles only in the UGC care list 1 or 2. So there are 3,000 ad journals in different sections, like science, social science, humanities, arts, like that. And even in the journals too, we have Web of Science and Scopus journals. So there are plenty of journals which are readily available, and if you try, if you make little effort, you can definitely publish your research articles in these UGC care list 1 and 2. But very important thing that you need to pursue the publisher to publish your paper. So that's very, very important. You don't go to any agency or somebody else, give your paper, I get it published in some journals, like that. So there are many fake journals also. You have to be very careful in publishing. Publishing is not a big difficult thing. So if you have written a good research article which is having a good methodology, so you can publish your research articles in very good journals. That is, I assure you people, if you follow a specific methodology in your research article, definitely you can publish. That's one thing. That's one thing. So that, as I already mentioned, you have two roles. One is teaching, another one is you need to do research and publish your research articles in reputed journals. As I mentioned, journal care list 1 and 2. For that, you have to have a good knowledge about your research methodology. So each discipline has its own specific methodology, and as social science, we have a common methodology. So most of the times we follow the common style of research, review of literature. We use two common type of sampling methods, choice of techniques, and making the analysis. So most of the times we follow the similar kind of the methods. But for today's talk, I'm not really focused on a single issue. What I thought of, let us discuss with you people what you expect from me. Okay, starting from choice of the, so I can talk about many things like choice of the topic and then review of literature and writing the proposal for your PhD or writing the proposal for the projects. So for getting the project from ICSSR and all those things. So that is how to write the proposal for the funding agency. And we can discuss about the how to write the research article to publish in a good journals. So how to make the write the paper and publish it, that I can discuss. And we can also discuss about the another important issue is sample and sampling design. Okay, most of the times we get confused with the sampling design and sampling and many things. So we need to have a lot of clarity while designing our research work. So designing our research work starting from the choice of the area to choice of the respondent. Starting from the choice of the area to choice of the respondent, and how do you prepare your questionnaire and how do you obtain your data and how do you process your data, edit your data and input your data and process your data, how do you get results and how do you analyze, everything will comes under this, sir, your sample design, sorry, your research design. Whereas in the sampling, now it is only restricted to how you are going to select your sample respondents. That's the thing. Like random sampling or the non-random sampling method, what sampling method that you are using and why you are using. So there are many issues that we can also discuss. And most of the times whenever I go and talk about the research, how many samples you have used for your research work, people will say, there are commerce people, they always go with the big numbers like, sir, I have collected 1,000 samples. Why? Why it is 1,000? Why it is not 1,000, not 1? Most of the times there are no answer. So because they have simply, they have taken, if I have taken more number of samples, my research is good. So there are no such kind of the beliefs. So there are specific rules how you have to determine your sample size. There are formulas. You need to follow those formulas to determine your sample size. So, for example, as most of the times we always go with the inferential statistical methods, so that your research is not simply making the statements. As I have understood, research is not simply making these statements. It is more of arguing on a specific topic. It is more of arguing on a specific topic. When you are arguing something or you are making, drawing the inferences, and these inferences, statements, arguments, conclusive arguments should be based on some proof. Should be based on some proof. And these proofs should be tested. Should have been tested. Then only we can make the statements, arguments, and we can draw the inferences. So that's what the research needed. So without any tested proof, if you make any argument, that will not be sustained. So therefore, whenever we talk about the research, it's more of inferential kind of the research. It is not descriptive. In languages, you can make the descriptive kind of the analysis. You can make arguments based on, there also you have a lot of proof. So and so author has argued like that, he has written in that, and you can give the references of many other books. So there also you follow a lot of analytical kind of the things. But in social sciences particularly, as we use a lot of data, based on the data, what type of the inferences we are drawing, these inferences should be based on the tested proofs. So therefore, we need to be very careful about selecting the sample. Selecting the sample, how many samples that have to be taken for the research. If I take 300, what could be the probability of error in that sample? What could be the problem? That's the first questions you need to ask yourself. If I take 200, if I take 100 samples, so what could be the probable errors in that samples? So that is the margin of error. What is the probability of margin of error exists in that data? So if your data itself is having lot of errors and problems, if you draw inferences based on that data, what is the guarantee that your argument is right? So therefore, when you take the samples, how many samples have to be taken? Is it 300, 400, 500? Whatever may be the number, but you should give justification. Why? Why 300? Why 384? I'm repeatedly telling you 384. So 384, it is the number is having less than 5% of error in your data. Okay, this is the number 384. If you have taken sample of 384, if you draw any arguments based on that data, in each of your argument, in general, you will be having 95% of confidence. Meaning only there is only the margin of errors. That is only 5% of possible error. I'm not strictly saying there will be 5% of error. There will be possible margin of error which is less than 5% when you are using 384 samples. So if your data itself is good, then you can do any kind of the analysis, use techniques, whatever you want you do, right? So determining the sample is also very, very important. So for determining the samples, you have to follow the statistical formula methods. Otherwise, it is not acceptable. You may be taking 1,000 samples. You may be taking 2,000 samples. If you have not mentioned why that's 1,000, 2,000, it's of no use. Yes. So sampling size, and we can also, I was talking about the review of literatures. So we do a lot of review of literatures. In Kannada, they do different kind of the review of literatures. In English, they do different. But in most of the other sciences, like starting from sociology, MSW, library science, economics, political science, we all do follow a similar kind of the patterns in while doing our review of literatures. But you do whatever the style you want to do, you do. But the most important thing, what style you are following for giving references. So in most of the journals, what they see, whether the references are given in style. Whether the references are given in style. Meaning if you're a Kannada or in the English, if you're English, you have to follow MLA, Modern Language Association style. So it is now already 8. MLA 8, you have to follow. If you're in the social sciences, you have to follow APA, American Psychological Association style. So there are many others. In science, they use Chicago styles, they use ISO styles, they use. So there are many different styles. And luckily, what I'm going to tell you is they're all available in our Word. Your Microsoft Word, there is a submenu. When you open your Word file, there is one submenu which blinks reference. If you open that, if you go to the style of the reference, that shows there are many types of styles: APA, MLA, ISO, Chicago. There are many styles. So you can follow that. If you go and insert your references there will be no problem in the style of the reference giving. So that there are techniques we have which can make your research article or your thesis work a more qualitative and more reliable and more specific. The research is a science. It always demands you have to do like this only. There are no scope for I can do like that, I can do like this. No, particularly in social sciences. Sciences, they have a laboratory conditions. So they can control that laboratory. But for social sciences, the whole society is our laboratory. We cannot control this society. When you are not capable of controlling this society, how can we model that society into our research? When you are modeling the society into your research, for example, you're talking about the gender issue of many kind, and what type of the gender issue that you are going to explain or discuss or modeling. So your paper is a kind of miniature of the reality. Your research paper, it is a mirror of the society. So when you are presenting the society through your paper, society has to be reflected as it is, as the society is, that has to be reflected in your paper. For that, we have to follow specified rules and regulations, methodologies. There are many things. So that sample size is another thing. So, and another important thing, social sciences, we use lot of data. We use lot of data in the sense, both primary data and secondary data. We use both primary data and secondary data. Please believe me, whatever the data you are using, they are all sample data, not the population data. They are all sample data. You are not using population data. Because even if you are using time series 2001 to 2022, so it is only the part of the whole system. The system starts somewhere. For example, the independence data starts from 1947, but India was exist before 1947 also. So that you are using only a sample data. Okay, so when we use sample data, what you are going to prove, that's very, very important. When you are using sample data, whether it's maybe Kannada, it may be a social science library, or even economics or sociology, what you are going to prove? You are going to prove something. You are going to draw something based on our sample data, right? We are making our arguments. We are drawing the inferences. We are giving the statements only based on our sample data. But the arguments, statements, whatever the inferences, what you are drawing, they are applicable to the population. Okay, they are applicable to the population. That's very, very important. You are drawing the inferences based on your sample. Your sample is very small, but the population is very big. You are drawing the inferences based on your sample, but it is applicable to the whole population. When your inferences are applicable to the whole population, there should be very preciseness in your inferences. So that when you draw the inferences, these inferences should be based on tested proof. So that you need to use lot of statistical tools, statistical procedures. If for economics, you need to use econometrics. Economics, anybody? Economics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where, sir?
Shivraj Kumar K, sir.
Shivraj Kumar K. Right, sir. From, sir?
Sir, Ranebenur, sir, SGME Women's College.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Very nice to see you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. In economics, we use lot of econometrics. So in these days, we use lot of econometrics. Without econometric tools, the research will not complete. So because we need to provide lot of support for our arguments, we do lot of higher order arguments, then we have to use econometrics also. So when we use statistics and econometrics, they have their own kind of precisions. When to use, how to get the results, and how to make the interpretations. These are the very, very, very important things. So most probably today I thought of explaining you how to select a specific techniques for a specific data. Okay, in another 1 hour, I may be talking to you. If you wish, I may be talking to you about how to choose an appropriate statistical technique or an econometric technique for a particular situation, for a particular data, for a particular type of the characteristics of data. Okay, all data is not same. I'm not talking about the data. So what are the types of data? Types of data. Anybody can tell?
The primary data and secondary data.
Yes, that's one type of the data based on the source. Rajeshwari ma'am, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, based on the source of the data, we classify the data into two types, primary data and secondary data. Then, Nagaraj Murthy sir.
Sir, qualitative and quantitative data is.
Yes, madam, qualitative data and quantitative data based on the characteristics of data. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, then.
Primary data and secondary data.
Madam has told already, primary data, secondary data based on the source of data. And then. In economics, based on the structure of the data, we have another type of data, that is cross-section data, time series data, and then pooled data. Suraj sir, for cross-section, we have different set of methodology.
Okay.
For time series, we have different set of methodology. For pooled data, we have different set of methodology. It is not possible to use the tests which are applicable to time series cannot be used to cross section.
Okay.
So that's very, very important. So there is one more type of data. There is one more type of data which is very, very important for doing research. That is scale of data. The measurement scale of data. On what scale you are measuring the data? On what scale you are measuring the data? Is it possible to measure the data? For example, if I say, what is your marks? So the marks can be measured on the scale of 1 marks, 2 marks, 3 marks, 10 marks, 100 marks, 300 marks, 400 marks. So out of total marks, how many marks you have scored? So that is, you can measure that. For example, if somebody says my marks is 70 out of 100, O is distinction. If somebody says my marks is 95, O is very close to 100. If someone says my marks is 30, O is failed. Okay, so that you can visualize that, you can measure that on the scale, right? If I ask, what is your gender? Vedalakshmi madam will say female, Shivraj Kumar sir will say male. Is it possible to measure that? That attribute of male and female, is it possible to measure? No, it is not possible to measure. So we can identify male characteristic or female characteristics by assigning some numbers like 1 for male and 2 for female. But we cannot measure. Okay. So like that, for the urban and rural, we can give some number like urban 1, rural 2. But we cannot measure. So like that, when we're talking about the other kind of the things, are you agreed about my argument? Yes, no. For yes, you can give 1. For no, you can give 2. Or you can give 0. Or you can give some other number. It doesn't matter. But you cannot measure. How do you measure yes? How do you measure no? So have you finished your breakfast? Yes. No. How was it? Oh, it was awesome, good, delicious. You can say anything. Is it possible to measure on any scale? No, you can't measure. So these type of the data is known as nominal data, which cannot be measured. So there are 4 type of scale data which are measured on the scale. One is nominal, which cannot be measured. The second one is ordinal. We put it in the order, first rank, second rank, third rank. The third one is interval scale data. So interval scale data meaning the data is of 2 extreme ends, maximum limit and minimum limit. For example, BP 130 by 90. Previously it was 80 by 120. You have 2. Temperature 45 degree, 29 degree. Like that, share market, the share price went up to certain limit and come down to certain limit. The price of tomato today in the market, 30 rupees maximum rate, 12 rupees minimum rate. So wherever you find the two extreme ends, that is known as interval data. And that interval data can be taken an average and convert into a ratio scale, the next level. So the fourth type of the data is ratio scale data. Ratio scale data. You can also call it a scale data. So that this data is a pure kind of quantitative numeric data which can be measured on some scale. It may be a liter, it may be a meter, it may be a kg, it may be a volume, right? In some forum, you can measure that data. Okay, based on this scale of data only, your choice of technique will be determined. Your choice of technique will be determined only based on your scale of data, nothing else, nothing else. Whether it's a qualitative data, quantitative data, does not matter. Whether you have taken that data from the primary sources or the secondary sources, that also doesn't matter. So only it is your scale of data. Are you using nominal scale, ordinal scale, ratio scale? Because interval scale can be converted into ratio scale by taking the average. For example, temperature 35, 25, the middle number, you can take 30. The average temperature today is 30. Like that, you can convert that data, right? So that you have three major type of data: nominal, ordinal, and ratio scale. And generally in research, for research, we use these two types of the data. So one is nominal data and the another one is ratio scale data. We largely use in all the social sciences, we use nominal, either nominal data or ratio scale data. So that when we use nominal data, what are the choices of statistical tools? If you are using ratio scale data, what are the choices of techniques which are available under different categories? So that today I maybe discuss. Krishna sir, can you unmute? Okay. So today I am going to discuss of these things. If you specifically need, like if you want to see how to give the references, how to determine the sample size, in the last half an hour, I maybe discuss about all those things. Okay. And there are some specific statistical techniques which need special attention, which is having a lot of attractiveness in your research papers. In your research paper, if you have mentioned a factor analysis, principal component factor analysis, you write whatever the title you want, gender analysis or the empowerment of women or the rural development, sustainable development, human development, or any of things, banking, whatever the title you have. At the end of the title, a factor analysis, a principal component analysis, a logic analysis, an econometric analysis, a time series analysis, a long-run relationship analysis, an empirical estimations of using error correction model. So if you use some name of the techniques, your paper will be published just like that. Because these are the techniques which have a lot of role in making the data analysis very precise and making it more reliable. For example, factor analysis. So you can go to Google and see how to do the factor analysis in SPSS or in Stata. You will get an idea of what is factor analysis and all those things. You can also go to the structural equation models. In these days, in most of the journals, if you see structural equation model, if you mention structural equation model, they will publish like that. They'll publish. Okay, it's like that logic analysis. or the qualitative response modeling. If you talk about the qualitative response modeling, your paper will be published. You are talking about the long run relationship Johansson co-integration method. Johansson co-integration method, your paper will be published. If you mentioned ARDL method, auto-regressive distributed lag model, your paper will be published. Arch and Garch model, your paper will be published. Okay, so like that, there are some specific techniques. If you learn just by seeing your YouTubes, you go to YouTubes, whatever the techniques I have told, like that factor analysis, structural equation model, clustering analysis, logit analysis, logit or probit analysis, co-integration analysis, ARDL modeling, Arch and Garch modeling, okay, input output forecasting. So these are all the things which are very, 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 very strong in the research techniques. Just by seeing these techniques, publisher will tempted to publish it. So they have that kind of the importance, the role, significance in research. So if you go to the YouTube, test for these things, and you will definitely get. So there is one Hossain Academy, Hossain HO, Hossain Academy. There's a Khan. He gives a lot of YouTube lectures. You can listen to that. You can learn how to use these techniques. But each of these techniques needs to be explained for systematic explaining and make you understand how to use these techniques. So it needs minimum of 2 to 3 hours, so that I am not getting into those. But I have files. I will request our sir to share with you people. So I have factor analysis slides. I have sampling styles. I have the review of literature slides. And I also have this how to write the research article and publish it. I have all those slides. And I also have parametric and non-parametric techniques for the research analysis. And also have the sampling methods slides. So I have many things. I will share with you people later. Our coordinator sir will share them with you. But today, if you really need what you want, so that I can concentrate on that. Otherwise, I can go with the scale of data and the choice of technique, which is most important for the research analysis. Okay, scale of data, nominal, ratio scale, and choice of technique. I go to that. Shall I go to that? Okay, right.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Can you please teach us something about the basics of research articles, how to write research articles and all?
Madam, that is Rajeshwari ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Basics of writing research articles, how to collect information, something.
Okay.
Research articles.
So not the type of data and the.
No, not like that, sir. You asked, no, that's why.
Yeah. Definitely, I can go with anything. But majority, as you say, that I will follow.
Since you asked suggestion, I just give.
Yes, madam. Yes, like that.
Really, I would like to learn that. That's why.
Okay, definitely. I have that. So I'm prepared to give any of these topics.
Sir,
Thank you, sir.
Vedalakshmi ma'am. Madam,
sir, now you proceed with the choice of techniques only, sir. But at the end, you can tell us about the techniques of preparing papers and all.
Preparing paper and others.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that Rajeshwari ma'am, what I do, I take half an hour for choice of techniques, scale and choice of techniques. Half an hour I go for publishing research article, writing and publishing research article. Is it okay, ma'am? Rajeshwari ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So first I will go with this one, right? So most of the things I have already discussed with you people, starting from the topic and review of literature, sampling, sample size, many things I have discussed. One of the most important thing I have discussed with you is that when we talk about the data, the use of data, we need to think of two things. One is what is the scale of that data, and what is the appropriate statistical or the any technique that I can use. Two things. One is the type of data, that is whether it is a nominal scale data or it is a ratio scale data. That's very important thing. And then what data that I can, so what techniques that I can use. So I will concentrate on that first. Okay, I'm not getting into all these things because shortage of time, I am not going to all those things. So these are the 4 types of the data based on the measurement: nominal data, ordinal data, interval, and ratio scale data. So for each and everything, I have given the references. What do you mean by the nominal data? What do you mean by ordinal data? And what do you mean by the interval level data? So interval data, as I already mentioned, it is from one particular point to another particular point.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. The screen is not visible, sir.
It is visible, madam.
No, sir.
Anybody else? Rajeshwari ma'am, is it visible or not?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
So visible, it is
Not
too
so,
small,
sir.
sir.
Too small.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Sir, only folders we are able to see.
Yeah, that's it, sir.
Okay, just I stop and then I will go again.
it is not opened, sir.
Okay. Is it visible now?
No, sir.
Oh my God. Sir.
Yes, sir. Shows.
Now?
Visible, sir. Visible.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah, shall I continue?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Oh. So I cannot minimize this presentation because they are recording, no? So that I cannot go back and open that file and make it present. Right. This is the scale of the data. Now starting from nominal scale to ratio scale. Right. I have given the prescriptions about all this data. What do you mean by nominal data? What do you mean by ordinal data? And then interval data. Yes, these are all some of the examples I have given. You can read it later, right? I'm not going to waste the time on those things. And lastly, it is the ratio scale data. Some examples I have given here: height, weight, volume, monetary variables such as profit, loss, revenue, expenses, financial ratios such as inventory turnover, quick ratio, like that. But we are not generally use the order data and the interval data in research analysis because they will not come under the distributions. Whenever we talk about the research analysis, we have to talk about the data follows what type of the distribution. Okay, if the nominal data, so what is that nominal data follows? What type of the distribution it follows? Generally, the nominal data follows the chi-square distributions, whereas the ratio scale data follows either the T distribution or the Z distribution or the F distribution. So I think you know about the nominal distribution. I think you know the nominal distribution. So the nominal distribution is the distribution based on the population. By using this nominal distribution, so we have drawn many other distributions like T distribution, F distribution, and then chi-square distributions. There are many other type of the distributions we have Poisson distribution, binomial distributions we have. So like that we have other type of Durbin-Watson distributions we have. There are many other type of the probability distributions. The most important theoretical distributions are the four, only four. One is the normal distribution. Normal distribution is purely based on the population. And for the population, there are no tests. There are no tests. Population cannot be tested. Let me give a small example. You have cooked sambar. The complete cannot be taken completely and say sambar was good. You use sambar only the little bit of sambar to taste it, you know, not the complete sambar. Like that, tube light company says this tube light will burn for 100 hours. What is the guarantee? I have tested. I have tested all the tube lights. Is it possible? You can test 5, 10, 20 to make it ensure, yes. Right? You cannot go and test all the tube lights. If you could have tested all the tube lights, there will be no tube lights for selling. So population cannot be tested and it's impossible. So that is normal distribution. Second one, T or Z distribution. T or Z distribution. So T distribution is a sample based distribution. It's a sample based distribution. Whether the data is large or small. If the data is large, then we call it as Z distribution. If the data is small, we call it as T distribution. And the purpose of use of this T distribution for conducting the different type of average tests, the different type of mean test. I have to say this word. There are many averages like median is also there, mode is also there, that cannot be tested. We test only mean values, mean of a group, mean of two different groups, mean of two data set of the same group, or the mean of the correlation coefficient or the mean of the regression coefficient, wherever you have to test, wherever you need to test the average value, meaning the mean value, then you have to follow T distribution. So because the T distribution only gives you statistical conditionality for your testing. That's very, very important, right? So if the data is large, then you call it as Z distribution. There is no difference between T distribution and Z distribution, right? It is only convenient. In most of the softwares, they say it is T distribution because they have designed like that, right? And then we are having F distribution. We are having F distribution. This F distribution is based on the variance. It is based on the variance. Okay, it is like this, right? It goes one-way skewed distribution. So it is skewed one-way skewed F distribution. Wherever you need to test the variances, wherever you need to test the variances, like variance in one group and variance in another group. For example, there are two sections. There are two sections of the students. Each have scored marks in different way. Whether the variances within this group and the variances within this group is the same or not. For that, we use F test, and then we use the same F test for the overall significance of the multiple regression coefficients. There also we use, even for the three mean comparisons, ANOVA test, ANOVA mean test, ANOVA mean test, analysis of variance test for mean comparison of more than two groups. There also we use F test. And the last one is chi-square distribution. Chi-square distribution is a non-parametric distribution. We use it for non-parametric test. Okay, we use it for non-parametric test. So therefore, since the time is very, very limited, I am not getting in detailed information about these distributions. But there are four distributions. One is normal distribution, population based, no test. And then we left with only three distributions. Any test designed, any test tested, or having any test values, you get from only these three: T distribution, F distribution, and chi-square distribution. T distribution for mean test, F distribution for the variance test, and the chi-square distribution for the non-parametric test. So the non-parametric test, one is goodness of fit test, another one is association test. Under the non-parametric test, that is the chi-square, we generally do two important tests. One is goodness of fit, and another one is association independence test. We can call it as association test. We can also call it as independence test. Okay, so these are the tests. So these are the only three distributions we largely use. So in econometrics, we use different distributions. They are only for the particular situation. But in all the general situation, for all the mean comparison, we use only T distribution. For all the variance comparisons, we use only the F distribution. For all the non-parametric tests, we use only the chi-square distributions. Okay, these are the very important things. And all these distributions are used only for the testings. Okay, why I have struck with that distribution? Because there are two different levels of analysis. One is descriptive analysis, where there is no need of these distributions. You can see here, there are two types of the empirical analysis. One is a descriptive analysis, and another one is analytical analysis, and you can also call it as inferential statistical analysis. Inferential analysis. Okay, what do you mean by descriptive? Presenting what is what, right? Presenting what is what. For example, the mean value. deviation value, correlation value, even simple regression, index values. We use all these things to explain some statistical characteristics or the status of the phenomena. So what is India? India is a developing country having the per capita income of 1,40,000 rupees with the inequality of 3 lakhs rupees. And there are people having the income of lakhs, crores, and there are people, lakhs of people, crores of people not having even a single rupee. So these are all the things we use, some values that we use to explain what is India. Why India is a developing country? Why inequality? Right? When you have the question of why, you have to prove this is because of this. Then we need higher order of statistical analysis to prove these arguments. So there is a difference between a male and female in their earnings. If I state like, say like that. So there are inequalities between the Indian states. Okay, when I talk about there are differences, how can you say I need to prove? I may be proved based on the population. I may be approved this by using the per capita income. I may be proved this by using the Human Development Index. Right? I may be proved this based on the inequality. I may be proved the amount of tax given by states to the center and the amount of tax revenue distributed among the states. There are many ways of things which I can use the data and prove or disprove. Yes, there are differences among the states. All the states are not one and the same in many things. Okay, for that, I have to use the higher order statistics, and that statistical analysis is known as analytical analysis. So, which gives tested proof for your arguments. This analytical analysis gives tested proof for your arguments. Because these statistical techniques like mean differences, relations, impacts, processes, associations, and distributions, and even econometric modeling and results, they support you to make the arguments. Yes, there are differences among the Indian states. There are differences between male and female. There are differences between the urban and rural. There are income impacts on the consumption level. So income has significant impact on the consumption level. Sorry. So when you say there is a significant impact, when you say there is a significant relationship, when you say significant differences, you need to prove with the tests. So when you are going to conduct the test, you need theoretical distributions, and you have to construct the hypothesis, and you have to test these arguments, your arguments, based on the data. Okay. So here I have some of the, you can see here, I am using only one variable, and there are two different extreme ends. I'm not going about the ordinal data. Just I go with the interval or ratio scale. I have already mentioned interval can be converted into ratio scale by taking the average. Okay. So I am using only one variable. Since using only one variable, it is known as univariate procedure. Univariate procedure. Uni means one, right? Using one variable. It may be a ratio scale variable, or it may be a nominal variable. Okay, it may be a nominal variable, or it may be a ratio scale variable. I am using only one variable, right? And I have two levels of analysis. One is descriptive level of analysis, another one is inferential level of analysis. If I'm using ratio scale data, if I'm going with the descriptive level, I have two options. I can go with the I can go with the mean analysis. I can compute mean value for that variable. For example, if we're talking about the marks, what is the average marks? Sorry. If we're talking about the income, what is the average income? If we're talking about the wage, what is the average wage? If we're talking about the consumption, what is the daily consumption expenditure? If we're talking about the production, what is the average production? If we're talking about the rainfall, what is the average rainfall? Okay, these are all measurable. I'm talking about these are all measurable, right? These are all measurable. So for all those things, you can compute mean value. You can also compute standard deviation. You can also compute standard deviation. If you have computed mean, standard deviation, and even the coefficient of variance, then you can explain. Coefficient of variation is not needed because single variable you are using. So, okay. So, if you are computed mean value, you can say the average marks is this much. The average income is this much. And the difference within that average, this is this much, standard deviation. Okay. That's the only thing that you are doing. On the extreme end, under the nominal data, you have another two important methods. One is the mode. Another one is relative or absolute frequency by category. Take an example of gender. So among this group, okay, among this group, how many male are there? How many female are there? Okay. You cannot take average. You cannot take average for the male and a female. But you can count how many male are there, how many female are there. Is it possible or not? Now we are about 36 people. Okay. How many? So there are about 34 people. 34 people. Out of 34, how many male are there? How many female are there? For 34, maybe 24 male and 10 female. Just I'm telling. You cannot take average for these two numbers. If you take an average for these two numbers, what meaning it will gives? It gives any meaning? No, it will not give any meaning. So therefore, only thing that you can do with a nominal variable, you can calculate mode. Mode is then the most repeated value, meaning how many male are there, count how many male are there, how many female are there. For example, out of 34, if there are exactly 17 male and female, male are 50%, female are 50%. That kind of the relative frequency that also you can use. Okay. The second level of analysis, that is inferential. I'm using the mean here for the scale data. I'm using mean, and I can, by using this inferential statistics, I can say the marks is less or the marks is more, the marks is different, the marks is not sufficient, the income is not sufficient, the rainfall is not sufficient, the consumption expenditure is not sufficient, the income is not sufficient. Some these kind of the arguments that I can make. For example, let me give an example of the rainfall. So what is the average rainfall of this year? Okay. Okay, generally the average rainfall in place like Mysore, it is 100 centimeters, generally 100 centimeters. And I take the examples from the different places of Mysore, and I come to know that the average rainfall in this year is only 72. Okay, I have 10 sample collecting places. From these 10 sampling collecting places, I have collected the information, and I found that the average rainfall in Mysore during this period is only 72 centimeters. Now, I'm going ahead. The rainfall has reduced this year in Mysore. How can you say reduced? If somebody asks, then I say, yes, there is a standard expected rainfall of 100, but my data says it is only 72, and this 72 is significantly less compared to 100. For example, if the rainfall was 99, can you say it is significantly low? It is not possible to say like that. So I have to test and tell the difference between the standard and this sample average. The difference is significant. For that, I have to test. I have to test and tell, yes, for that I use t-test. Okay. Next, I have the slides I will show you. So how to test t-test, conduct t-test, and prove the difference between the sample and the difference between sample and standard is significant. Then only I can say, yes, the rainfall in Mysore is less. Then only I can say the income earnings from the labor class in farming is less. When how the average labor wage price of the whole set of Karnataka, if I talk about the industrial labor and the construction labor, agriculture laborers, non-farm laborers, there are different types of the labors, you know. So if I know the average 500 rupees is the wage per day in Karnataka or in Tamil Nadu. So what is the average wage of the people working in the farms? Okay. If it is 330 rupees or 350 rupees, then I make the comparison with 500. Right? I make the comparison with 500. If the difference is significant, then I'll say, yes, wage in agriculture is very, very less. So that kind of the analysis that I can do. On the other side, for the nominal data, I have chi-square test. I already told chi-square test is meant for nominal data. And it's a non-parametric data. Sorry, non-parametric test. Scale data, parametric test. Your t-test and f-test are for parametric. That is only for ratio scale, parametric, metric. And this nominal data, it is only for the non-parametric test. The non-parametric tests are like chi-square test. So I do conduct the chi-square test. Here particularly the goodness of fit test. Whenever I have a single variable, I do conduct a chi-square test, the goodness of fit chi-square test, to prove whether the among the participants, male are more or female are more. The same thing. I already mentioned there are 17 male and 17 female. Instead of 17, if there are 19 male and 15 female, or 20 male and 14 female, or 21 female or 13 male, then there are differences in the participation. Then I have to test and say, yes, there are more male, there are more female, like that. And this is second level of analysis. We are going with two variables. We are going with two variables. Here, there are two ratio scale variables. Right side, two nominal variables. I have two. Okay. Two ratio scale variables, meaning here you can, since you have two, you can go for the mean difference test. You can go for the mean difference, under the descriptive, you can compute correlation, linear correlations. Okay, you can compute correlations. You can also run a simple regression. Okay, you have consumption expenditure, you have income. You can establish the relationship. Okay, what is the relationship between the income and consumption? So you have the number of hours studied in sociology, number of hours studied, the marks work time. Right? You can compute correlation coefficient and you can see. So like that, you can compute correlation, you can compute regression. Suresh, Suresh sir, please unmute. Okay, only simple correlation regression that we can do. I unmuted. Okay, so this is only linear correlation, simple regression that you can. But you cannot say the relationship is significant. You cannot say the impact is significant. If you want to prove the relationship is significant, if you want to prove the impact is significant, then you have to go for this inferential. Yes, t-test on regression coefficient. Z-test on the difference of the between two means. T-test on the difference of the two means. If you want to prove the difference is significant, you go with t-test. If you want to prove the relationship is significant, you have to compute t-test. If you want to prove the impact is, the regression coefficient impact is significant, then you have to conduct t-test and you say, yes, there is an impact, there is a difference, there is a relationship. On the other side, I am using two nominal variables like, for example, gender. As I mentioned already, one variable is gender. Another variable is your opinion about the class, today's class. Opinion is also nominal. It cannot be measured. Opinion cannot be measured. So you say the class, what is your opinion about the class was good or not? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So yes, no is also a variable. Opinion is the variable. Okay, opinion about the class. You say yes or no. And your gender. Okay, I have two variables. When I have two nominal variables, one thing I want to know is whether the opinions are in favor of good or in favor of bad, or yes or no. One thing. Okay, one thing I can do, whether the positive opinions are more or the negative opinions are more. That I can test. And then, if there are more positive opinions, who gave more positive opinions? Whether the male gave the more positive or the female gave the positive opinion about the class. So if I found, yes, male have given more positive compared to female, then I should rectify myself. I need to correct my talk in order to reach the female also. So that I need to give some more example which are related to the female. I need to correct myself so that I have to do something. Okay, that kind of the test. The next one is multivariate analysis. So this is the higher level of analysis, as I already mentioned, as we go and go above and above. So your descriptive analysis are gone here. So up to two variables, you can go with the descriptive analysis. If you are using three variables or three or more variables, you are going with the higher order of analysis. And these are known as multivariate analysis. So for that multivariate analysis, we have two different types of the analysis. One is the dependence analysis. Another one is interdependence analysis. Dependence means one variable, the value of the variable is depending upon many things. Okay. The number of years of school completed by a student is depending upon many things. Income of the parents, income of the state, and number of other things. Like that. The level of consumption expenditures depending upon income of the family, number of persons in the family, price of the commodities, many things. It depends on many things. Okay. One thing is depending upon many things. That is multiple dependence analysis. Multiple dependence analysis. Right? Another thing, it is interdependence. There are interdependence. For example, when you are going and purchase a car, you're looking into the speed of the car, price of the car, color of the car, safety of the car, mileage of the car, interior of the car, and many other things. They are all interrelated. They are not influencing one on another. Your color is not influencing the price, or the price is not influencing your seed, other things. They are all interdependent. They are all interdependent. When they are all interdependent, you cannot make them as a dependent or independent. You have to treat them as an interdependent variables, and you have to analyze them. So for that, we have certain analysis, cluster analysis, factor analysis. Nowadays, we also have structural equation modeling. Also, we have logit model, probit model. So there are many new type of the analysis are there. We can use those. So under the dependence analysis, we have multiple regression, MANOVA, canonical correlations, and you can use many econometric techniques also you can use. So the same thing I have put it in a different way. What are the dependence? What are the independence variables? So I'm not getting into all these hypothesis testing. I have told you the distributions: normal distribution, Z-T distribution, F distribution, chi-square distribution, Z-T. If the sample is more than 30, Z. If the sample is 30 and less than 30, then it is a T distribution. We do only parametric mean test. F distribution, it is also parametric, only variance test. Chi-square distribution for only non-parametric test like chi-square test. So testing procedure I have, yeah. So this is the first example I have given. That is, you have a sample here. Sir, 100 over interaction. Okay. So we have one sample group and we are making comparison with the standard. Okay, that is one example. Second example, you have two groups. You have two sections of the students, and you are making the comparison of the marks between the one group, one section with another section. And you have two different groups, the same group after two observations. For example, you have conducted a test for your students and you found that there are grammatical mistakes. You have given one more chance to the students and given some extra input, how to write, how to make the corrections, spelling corrections and all those things. You have given an extra class of English, okay, English to correct them. And then again, you have conducted the test, whether the marks scored by the students are increased or not. For that also, you can go with paired sample t-test. And the fourth type of the test, when you have three different groups, then also you can make the comparison. For example, per capita income in Karnataka, per capita income in Tamil Nadu, per capita income in Telangana. We have three states, and in each state we have different districts. By using the district level data, you can make the comparison of the per capita income among these three states. Or the three classrooms, you can make the comparisons. Otherwise, three different groups, working groups, like labor class. Again, the wages of the three different types of the wages: construction industry wage, farm wage, non-farm wage. So whether is there any difference among this? So this is known as ANOVA F test. And this F distribution is like that generally, but it can be also like this based on the degrees of freedom. Yeah, this is how we compute in the software. We can use software. This is chi-square test. This is chi-square test. I'm taking the opinion of the people about the satisfaction of the class, whether they have happy with the class or not. Yes, no. 72% of the people, participants have said yes, the class was good. 27 have said no, class was not good. Okay, this is known as one variable test. I'm testing the only one variable, whether the opinions are skewing towards yes or the opinions skewing towards no. Okay, if that is the case, I'm using goodness of fit chi-square test. I'm using goodness of fit chi-square test. Based on that test value, look at here, my probable margin of error is only 0.004, meaning less than even 1%. Then I say, yes, certainly I can say the class was satisfied by majority of the participants, or the class was good, that I can say. That is one thing. Second thing, so whether the class was good for male or female, I've already mentioned. So look at here, 90% of the male said yes, whereas female also relatively said yes, but their opinion about the positive satisfaction about the class, it is only 55%. 45% of the women have said no. So even though it is 55%, 95%, there's big difference between their opinion, between the male and female. So again, the chi-square association I have written there, okay, is also significant, right? So therefore, your opinion is depending upon your gender. The opinion is depending upon gender. That kind of arguments, wherever you find, you can make it. So some other type of the analysis, as I've already mentioned, you can do with the correlation analysis also you can do. So meaning establishing the numeric linear relationship between the two parametric variables, that also possible. And you can also go with the impact analysis, like it should be a numeric, data should be a numeric. And even nominal data also can be used, because in econometrics we have a different kind of the models. Even our ANOVA dummy variable, there we can use the nominal data. Even in our logit model, we can use nominal data. So that also permitted in econometrics. But in correlation, only numeric data. Whereas in impact analysis or the regression analysis, we can use both numeric data as well as the nominal data, both data that we can use. Okay, some examples are given. So this is for time series analysis. I have mentioned in the beginning, in economics, particularly in econometrics, we used three types of data. One is cross section, which is general in nature. Second one is time series. So the time series is always having its own type of the characteristics. So it has to follow certain time series procedures that I have mentioned. If the time series is stationary, what I can do. If the time series is non-stationary, what I can do. And these are all some of the advanced classification analysis, like data reduction techniques, factor analysis, principal component analysis, repeated principal component analysis by using Promax method or the Verimax method. Okay. And we are trying to create the components, and we are trying to identify the factors within that component, and then multiple regression analysis by using the data, and the cluster analysis, randomized impact analysis, that also we can do. Okay, I stop at this point for this one, and I will share one more thing, that is as you have asked. Can you see this, ma'am? Writing and publishing the research article. Yes. So here what I have tried, there are three sections in this presentation. The first section presents only the structure of an article, the structure of an article. What should be an article, right? The second section, how we have to write each of the section. Okay, how we have to write each of the section. And the third section, how to publish it. Three sections are there. The first section, it gives you only the outline of a very scientific article. The second part, it's all about how to write each section of the article. Each section of the article has to be written. How? For example, title, how to write. Okay. And the last one, how to publish. So since I have another 10-15 minutes for the presentation, and rest of the time I will give you for the discussion, but by that time you can ask about me the sampling size, sampling size, giving references, even where I can publish, that also you can ask, so that I can show you whatever you need, right? So that in another 5-10 minutes I will try to say these things. So okay, so this is the outline of an article: title, abstract, keywords, introduction, review of literature, methodology, results and interpretation, conclusion, references, tables and graphs. Generally in social sciences, all these should be present in a research article. There is no chance of missing. For example, table may be missing or the graph may be missing. But if you have both, the value of your paper will be more, right? Then it is title. How the title is there, how the title will be, and how you have to write. I'll come to that little later. But in the title, it may be explicit title, implicit title. Explicit means you are explaining everything in the title. Like I have given example in the downside, I have given the example. Explicitly you are writing everything. Gender discrimination in agriculture in Karnataka, in Tamil Nadu, in Andhra Pradesh. Okay. You're completely writing an empirical analysis, a regression analysis, a cluster analysis, a factor analysis. You are writing everything in the title itself. Just by reading the title, we can understand what the paper is all about and what it is going to explain and examine and argue. Whereas in the implicit, I write the white tiger. Particularly Kannada and English people, they write like that. Okay, they write Koragu. What is this Koragu? They write the wall. Right? So I cannot understand what wall, whether this compound wall or the home wall or the what kind of the wall. Nowadays, we also have the wall in the internet. Blacks. Okay. So what is this wall? I have to go and ask our UGC-HRDC what you have written in your book, The Wall. So is my friend in the English department. He has written one book and the title of the book is The Wall. And the whole book explains how the gender disparities exist in the system. But it says The Wall. Right, that is implicit. And the title should have some issues, subject matter. Okay, what to include or what not to include, you have to be very careful. Shall I give both title and subtitle, like as I have given? Use of specific characteristics like comma, full stop, semicolon, colon permitted, slash, question mark. Some people will write gender discrimination, question mark. You yourself questioning your title. You yourself questioning your title. Why are you questioning your title? Okay, at least let the title be as it is. And then there should be an abstract in an article. In that abstract, these are the things needs to be present in the abstract. The major thrust of the study, what is the focus of the study in 1 or 2 lines, what data that you have used, what methodology that you have used, very brief. So for example, primary data collected in Tamil Nadu have been used and analyzed by using the largest model in 1 line, complete. Have been used and analyzed by using the factor analysis. So techniques, if you have developed your own models, you can mention. And major outcome or findings of the study. Okay, what you have found from your article. and what are the challenges or problems identified in that particular issue, not your challenges. In that subject matter, in that issues, what challenges you have identified. What are the suggestions that you are giving? And one line of concluding remarks. Keywords need to be given because when you give the keywords and the people search for something, for example, I have written an article about the gender discrimination. If I give a keyword like gender, if somebody search for the gender, my paper will become first. Okay, so the Google search engine will go by these keywords, so that you have to give. And the introduction. So in the introduction, what are the things needs to be? That is importance of the subject matter, status of the subject matter, issues in the topic. Implicitly, why I am talking about this implicitly, meaning some people in the research article write objectives of the paper, hypothesis of the paper. Don't write like that. That is not the standard procedure of writing research article. If you are writing research article, you tell the objective of your paper, but implicitly you have to tell, not explicitly. For example, the present paper intends to examine and prove the relationship between the income and consumption expenditure in the villages of Tamil Nadu, in the villages of Karnataka. You're right. The present paper intends or aims to prove there is an existence of gender discrimination even in the judiciary system. You write like that, but you are going to prove that. Okay, so like that, implicitly you have to mention objectives and hypotheses, and you also talk about the rational need for the present study, because if your paper needs to be get published, it should involve some of the contemporary issues. The contemporary issues should be there. And what are the application and implications of your research article? That also be explained. And then review of literature. It is the gist of the, in each research article, there should be a review of literature, but should be in a very precise manner. So I have seen many people that have given Shambhulinga in his article explained the meaning of gender, meaning of library, meaning of economy, meaning of that. This is not needed. You have to concentrate only on these issues. What issues you have studied in the previous, what they have analyzed, what issues they have analyzed, how they have analyzed, what data they have used, what methodology they have used, what techniques they have used, whether the agreements in findings or disagreements in finding and arguments. For example, some people say there is no gender discrimination in higher education. Some people may also say, yes, there is gender discrimination in higher education. Okay, why do they say like that? You go for their methodology, you go for their data. So these people are using this data. These people are using this data. In the medical, if you go and check, the participation is almost same. Male 50, female 50 in medical. When you come to the master's degree or the others, nowadays in economics, particularly in economics, we have more female girls, female, than compared to male. What data that I'm using matters. But we are arguing, two people are arguing the same thing. There's a gender discrimination in higher education. There's another person saying there is no gender discrimination in higher education. But the data, what they are using, they are different. So that you have to go with the agreements and disagreements, arguments and other type of the arguments. So lead to identify what has done and not done. We'll be able to identify the research gap for your paper. To state out of the gaps what the present study is going to do. That also you can do. So in the same methodology, at the end of your methodology, review of literature, you could be able to write all these things. Yes, there are gaps in this area of research. And therefore, the present study is aiming to examine these new issues and to examine and prove this something. And then methodology. In the methodology, you have to mention all these things. I take another 5 minutes lastly. Okay, a data, what data, and sources of origin of data, period, whether you're using parametric techniques or non-parametric techniques. If you are using any specific model, that also you have to mention. And again, what 2 levels of analysis that you are using, you should be aware of that. You should be aware of that. And then I have already shown this, right? Okay, this is one thing I wanted to tell you. So this is the formula that we use to calculate the sample size. That is, sample size is equal to Z square into P into 1 minus P close whole divided by E square, means error square. Z is the Z distribution square. P is the population proportion. That what is the population of your sampling is out of the total population. That is another thing. And the E means error, the amount of possible error that you are going to allow. That is the error, margin of error. So this is the formula that we use. Okay. And then results and interpretation. This is, let me give 1 or 2 minutes about this. So whatever the results you get, you will do these things only. You can write the statements. Based on the results, you can illustrate. But in a reasoning manner, in a logical manner, systematically, in an order of sequence, you have to make your arguments. That's very, very important. That's one thing. Okay. And then, while writing the interpretation for the results, it should be very simple. Need not to write a very articulated words or a beautiful, magnanimous, not need. It was good. It was bad. That's all. Okay. And then status explanation. We always talk about the differences. You always talk about the relations. In any analysis, you do only these things. You talk about the status. You talk about the differences. You talk about the relations. You talk about the impacts. We talk about the associations and implications. In your analysis, what are you going to do? You are going to explain the differences. Are you going to explain the relations? But while you are doing this difference, relations, impact, why these differences? You have to give reasons for the differences. You have to give the reasons for the relations and the reasons for the consequences. And again, you have to give the tested proof for everything. Okay, and then you need to conclude, but not so lengthy. You follow this one. And then references, you can follow this APA style, MLA style, Chicago style, Harvard style, Mandya, and you can online inbuilt softwares like Mandya you can use for giving references, or you can go to your Microsoft Word. There is one item called reference. You go and click that. You can directly insert your reference in that. That automatically gives you the references. So when you give references in APA style, that will be like this. Okay. Now, this is how you have to write. Okay, how you have to write. How the title has to be written. How the graph has to be given. How the table number has to be given. That is. Okay, steps in research writing. I'm not getting into all these things. I have given in detail. I have given. So data title, tentative finalization title, search for the previous works, identify the works of same kind of related works. So last previous research works, a review of literature, how we have to do the review of literature and what is the importance. So while writing the review of literature, you have to talk about the importance of the subject matter, relations, interdependency, causes, consequences, base for the present study. Okay, so write the draft introduction, write the draft methodology, and write the research gap, and make sure of availability of data and where you get the data. So, okay, you have started with an idea, but you are not getting data. Okay, so this is the steps: obtaining results, construct table and graphs, interpret the results, write the draft analysis, conclude the work, prepare abstract, identify the keywords, give references. Okay, checklist, you have to check all these things. And how and where to publish. Previously, it was conference volume or open access, some ISBN, some ISSN. No. And even in UGC, there were 4 lists, A, B, C, D. But now we have only 2 groups. One is UGC care list 1, group 1 journal, group 2 journal. Okay. So if you go to UGC, you register yourself with your own email ID. If you have given your email ID, that will permit you to use the UGC website as an authenticated member, so that you can go and search what are the journals are there. Okay, look at here under the UGC care list group 1, we have 329 journals for sciences. For social sciences, we have 265 journals we have under the group 1. And even for the humanities, there also we can publish 311, multidisciplinary 36, languages, Kannada and English, we have 200 different journals for publishing our research articles related to your Indian languages. Even though you have written your journal article in Kannada, you can translate it and you can submit in these journals. Okay, and the UGC care group, 2 journals. See this science, social sciences, 22,550 under the Web of Science. Under the Scopus, we have 41,370. So there are plenty of journals. Just I am taking care list 1, 341. These are all the journals. Here you can publish. Care list, last 314. So you can go to the particular paper also. You can go to the particular paper also like this. Okay. How to reach UGC approved journal list? I have given the steps. How to reach UGC approved list of journal. There are steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Follow these steps. You can easily go to UGC approved list of journal. And this is how you have to go. Okay. So you are going, selected, you got it. The same thing I have done. Again, I am giving. Yes. And you can also see the research article in that journals. Sorry, I had to run because sir has already indicated me. You give time for the discussion. So now you can ask about any of your questions.
Dear participants, now the lecture session is over. Now the webinar is open for discussion. If you have any queries, please go ahead. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದವರ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ
ಎಲ್ಲರೂ
ಒಬ್ರು ಬಂದಿದ್ರು
ಇಲ್ಲ
ಕಾರ್ತಿಕನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ನೋಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕ್ತೇನೆ ನಾನು ಬಂದ್ರೆ
ಅವಾಗ ಅದು ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ
ನೋಡಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ If you have any clarifications or queries, please go ahead. Maybe. Please.
Excuse me, sir.
ಹೇಳಿ ಮೇಡಮ್.
Sir, you told about UGC care list journals.